Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Holy Grounds here at St. John's, where we get together and we talk about this Sunday's gospel lesson. I'm Georgi Funderburk, the youth minister at St. John's, and with me today is Chris Lidard, one of our seniors. I'm happy to have him with us. He's in the midst of exams and all of the fun that comes with being a high school senior. So I'm glad that you were able to take some time today, Chris, and be with me.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
So today we're going to read from Mark chapter 3, verses 20 through 34. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, "He is out of his mind." And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, "He is possessed by Beelzebub. By the prince of demons, he is driving out demons." So Jesus called them again and spoke to them in parables. "How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house and carry off his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man. Then he can rob his house. I tell you the truth, all the sins and blasphemies of men will be forgiven, but whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. He is guilty of an eternal sin." He said this because they were saying, "He has an evil spirit." Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." "Who are my mother and my brothers?" he asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother." That's quite a passage.
Absolutely. That's a lot going on there.
Anything immediate jump out for you, Chris?
I think the most climactic part, and I think the most surprising, in addition to just the exorcism stuff, is the end, where Jesus, it's kind of unexpected behavior that he's kind of not, I guess, not acknowledging his mother and brothers like you would expect him to. You know, when you hear the honor thy father and thy mother in the first commandment, and the Ten Commandments, that's surprising to me.
Yeah, it does feel a bit jarring. Right now we're in between Mother's Day and Father's Day, right? And that's what we do. We honor them, we respect them, and so to have him say, "Who are they? That's not them." Yeah, it definitely jars us a bit. This Sunday, we're going to be celebrating Gratitude Sunday at St. John's and thanking our volunteers. And so I think it's so appropriate that this part of the gospel, that it ends this way for us, with Jesus saying, "Whoever does God's will is my brother and my sister and my mother." So Chris, who do you consider to be your family, or what does family look like to you?
Well, yeah, I've had always a pretty expansive kind of view of family. I luckily have a very like strong, and I feel good relationship with my immediate nuclear family, and those are the people that I do see the most. I think, but in addition to that, I also, family to me kind of represents itself to me in like kind of a form of brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And I especially, one example, like Boy Scouts, the bond that I can form with my age cohort and my troop, over the 7 years that I was in Boy Scouts, that felt like family to me. And I wouldn't say it was the same type of relationship that it was with my nuclear family, of course, but it was the same strength in a different kind of direction.
Sure.
And I felt like that was really, really powerful. I think something that's also, when you talk about what family looks like to you, I think something that's also really powerful for me when you talk about family is sharing meals. The people I share meals with are really the people that like I get to know the most. Whether that's my immediate family, which we make a big habit in my household to eat together. That's one of the one times when I'm rushing to all my different things that we really get to sit down and like see each other and talk to each other. Or you know, when I'm on a scout camping trip, you know, you eat with your age group, and that's when we really get to sit down from all the day's activities and talk and be ourselves. Or really, you know, in a form of social interaction. That you know, whatever you do, you know, whenever I'm going around, you know, around town, usually we're eating something, and that's kind of where I find my family.
I think that's so key. I mean, it was Jesus who sat down and said, whenever you eat this, whenever you drink this, remember me, right? And so, yeah, those people that we eat with are often those who we consider our family. I mean, I know, you know, when you're in middle school and high school, and maybe I hear maybe it has changed a bit these days, but I sat with my close friends at lunch, right? And in the workplace, you typically go towards people who you want to eat with. I mean, that's a time where you want to sit down and share the meal with somebody, not just happen to sit next to somebody and eat together. You know, for me, family, you know, I have 5 adopted kids, and so family is not blood for me. It's thicker than that. You know, we hear blood is thicker than water, but I've always felt that Jesus's blood is thicker than anything else. And that the Holy Spirit really is this piece that like connects us in this way that other things can't. You know, I know as part of the LGBTQ community, a lot of people struggle with their nuclear families, with acceptance, with just feeling loved. And so a lot of times we have chosen families, and that's not something that is special just to that community. You know, I think a lot of people choose families because we choose people who accept us and love us and support us, and yeah, who we want to sit down and eat with. So it's interesting. I really appreciate that you noted that about food, because it was the disciples that Jesus sat down with at Passover, right? And then was able to give that big last talk.
It's actually so interesting you said the blood is thicker than water, because when I first listened to this passage, something that came to my mind was kind of a counter phrase that I'd heard to that, which is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I don't know if you've heard that one too, but that really stood out to me, and it kind of flips it on its head. Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. So if we are claiming that our Christian brothers and sisters are really family to us, do we live that out? Do we support each other like family does? You know, we come together once a week and we share this feast. We share the Eucharist with each other. Do we go further than that? Do we support each other in our service to God? Are there ways that you support people at St. John's, or that you feel supported by people at St. John's?
I think so. And I think when you like, you know, family, whether it's, you know, biological or, you know, a found family or a chosen family, or, you know, whatever may come, however may come by, I think has its everything with it, the positives and the negatives. And it's a very living and growing experience of family. And I think church does emulate that. I mean, we have our little sibling rivalries and our family feuds and those kinds of things, but but undeniably, especially at St. John's, we have, frankly, love. There's an undeniable and immense just sense of love that I think especially the youth can feel, and in kind of a parental sense, from every adult. I know I've done, functions, whether it's like service and outreach or, discovery weekend or events or whatever. And adults I haven't even met before, kind of just, they look after you in a way that you really can't get in a lot of other places. I mean, there's plenty of, being a kid, there's plenty of times adults or leaders are involved in something, but when it's a church family, you can feel a real like obligation beyond just having to be there.
Yeah.
I think also I've always felt like people have been, kind of rooting for me. Like just being that connection of St. John's and being together in the same faith has made people like feel like when I'm successful, they're successful. Like we're a community, we're a family. Like, that's Chris Lidard. I know that, that guy. And so it's really been such an encouragement that I think is valuable and it is underrated in a lot of, a lot of people that don't realize how much of an asset it can be to you.
That's so beautiful. I'm glad that you have felt that from St. John's. I'm still so new and coming in the middle of a pandemic. There's still a large percentage of the congregation I haven't seen or met. But I know growing up in church, I had so many grandmothers and third and fourth and fifth and eighth mothers, that took care of me and supported me, who I went to when I had questions or concerns. And I mean, I still think of them that way. I may not have seen many of them in years, but I know that I could call on them in an instant if I needed anything. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that the church gives us. I mean, I've never found that in any other organization, right? Like, I know you mentioned Boy Scouts and how that's a family, and absolutely. But I think there's just something a little extra, right, about church that,
Yes.
And again, I think it's that, here in this Pentecost season, it's that spirit that just ties us together. And, there's also that sense of calling where we're called to make a difference in the world, and to love people in a different way. On that note, how do you, Chris, whether it's you as an individual or you as a part of St. John's, go about attempting to fulfill the will of God? That's a big question.
That's a huge question, right? I think hopefully a lot of us are asking that question on the daily, right? I certainly ask myself it. I think, something I was actually just talking about in another church thing was trying to identify the gifts that I've been given from God and the Spirit, and figuring out how to best use those in the community as well as just in the world. And it's like it was described by a pastor who shall not be named as like the Holy Spirit talent search. And so I think St. John's has helped me figure out what skills I do have and what I have been given by God, and has also been a extremely easy outlet for using those for my community. I guess I'll give one example. I think I'm pretty good at like administration. Like if there's like a billion things like moving parts going on, I'm pretty good at like synthesizing them and figuring out what to do with it. And something opportunity that came up in the pandemic was like senior citizens, our older members of our church needed like groceries delivered. Like this is like March, like
Sure.
No one knew what was happening. Like everyone was inside, and so I had a super easy avenue. I mean, I basically just called up like the head of the outreach commission. She was like, "We would love to support you on this," and suddenly I was delivering groceries to seniors. And I felt like that was where I was needed at that moment, because I was out of school and people had a need, and the church not only recognized that this would be something I could do, at that time, like a 16-year-old. But it made it really easy and supportive to go out and do that. Whereas I think in a lot of times there's some more barriers to entry. There's not very much trust and faith, for lack of a better word, in my ability to go out and do that. So that was really a helpful experience. I really love that. That actually connected me to other opportunities to serve, which I continue to do today. And so I think that's been just an example of how St. John's has really helped me live out the will of God in my community specifically.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Like, see it. There's a great little cartoon that I love, and their phrase is "see a need, fill a need," and that's what you did, right? You saw the need, and you knew that you had what it took to fill it, and that's amazing. And the fact that the church encouraged you and supported you and uplifted you in that, that's the church being the church right there. I think a lot of times, there are certain things that are like singing in the choir, being on the vestry, like there are these things that are like the good things that you're supposed to be able to do at church. And there are some things that aren't quite as glamorous, that maybe people are better at. And those things are needed by the church too. We can't all be the head, we can't all be the heart. Someone's got to be the foot, right? Someone's got to be the spleen. And so it's great that you're finding your niche in the church and that you're seeking out what your gifts are, because your gifts are needed just as much as my gifts are needed. So I'm glad that you're finding that St. John's is a place that you can do that. And, I hope that as you go forward into your next chapter, that you find a place where you can do that as well and continue in this life of faith.
Absolutely.
It has been such a joy to talk with you. Thank you for joining me in this. Best of luck as you move forward. You will be missed, but you always have a home. So we look forward to hearing all the great things that you do. Thank you all for joining us this day on Holy Grounds. We look forward to joining you in worship on Sunday.
Thank you.